Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, and we're going to make a bit of a trade deal, alright? I'm going to tell you about my experience with South of Midnight. I went hands-on with the game for about an hour. It was a single chapter of the game. I played it here from the comfort of my own home. They did have an in-person event, but I was unable to attend, so I played it here on my Xbox Series X. I'm going to tell you about the story, the music, the gameplay, tell you all about that. Here's what you get to do. You get to settle a household debate. So I got prescribed glasses, reading glasses, 0.75. How about that? You get to tell me if these look right on me. Am I like a thin frame guy, or we'll use my old computer glasses? Am I a thick frame dude? Let me know, but I'm going to put you through an entire video of me wearing these, even though it's not entirely necessary because my wife likes them. I'm kind of like feeling I'm one step away from going, Wingardium Leviosa. You put a lightning bolt on my head, it's game over. I'm the Harry Potter reboot guy. So you let me know if this is good or not, because I'm going to take that risk because I know the internet will be brutally honest. So let's not delay any further. Ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to South of Midnight, I know this has been like a crazy game online. I haven't really paid attention much to that, but what I'll say is what I do know, which is that I've played compulsion games in the past since Contrast, when that was on the PS4 as like a launch era title, and I really like that game. I just loved its little 2D platforming, its usage of shadows. I thought it was just really creative. It was a short adventure. It was my first 100% completion on the PS4, and I was really happy with it walking away from it. Then we go to We Happy Few, which is like the game that really put compulsion on the map, because I remember when we all saw that first trailer, we were like, oh my god, this is it. It's the next BioShock. It had that vibe completely, and while it didn't deliver that at all, I was not expecting a survival, procedurally generated, open world style game. I still have a soft spot for We Happy Few, especially those sections where it was not procedurally generated. Like, that game had a lot of heart, a lot of soul to it, and especially the concept of joy, I thought was very thought-provoking. So I feel like this studio, even if they always nail the execution, really try to say meaningful things with their games. And so when South of Midnight steps up, I'm interested in this one because it's like, all right, no longer are you like the scrappy upstarter trying to find support somewhere. Like, you are a Microsoft-owned studio, and you've been cooking for a little bit of time now. We learned from the IGN preview that this was a sub 10-hour experience, and I bring that up because as I hopped into it, this is definitely a game that's designed to be more of an experience than a fun thing to play. There is gameplay, but it's more in the serviceable area, and I could see this being a drawback for others. But if you like great music, if the visuals of this game really seem distinct to you, I think this, alongside the themes and the storytelling that they're trying to tackle here, which I'll get a bit into, could come together for a lot of people to be something that feels kind of special, pretty unique compared to most of the things hitting the market right now. So I just wanted to share some general thoughts on the matter. So I'll tell you all about that in just a moment, but a quick word from today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by Apex, where right now you can get a PC for 25% off site-wide, or if you're missing this sale, guess what? 5% off using the code Matty down below. You're watching a game right now that is on an Xbox, and this is an Xbox is everywhere, right? So you can play your Xbox games on PC, which is what I did all of last year. So link down below, 5% off if you use code Matty, or you can go in right now. Winter savings on all PCs, 25% off site-wide. Check it out, link down below. All right, so the thing I want to start off with is I have most of my critiques laying in the gameplay, because I feel like they have these great ideas that they haven't done anything super interesting with. For example, like, you'll get these powers where you can push or pull enemies, and I didn't really see the platforming make use of it, or you'll be able to wall run, but it's usually down straight alleyways. So I'll save my critiques for the gameplay in a little bit, but when it comes to the presentation value here, it's phenomenal. I was really impressed by the environmental art direction and the lighting, the way they combine. There's just some beautiful shots in this game, just in this one sliver of the game where I just stopped and took it all in. I just, that combined with the music just really was striking a chord for me, where I went like, oh, this could be special if this hits like this the whole way through. Also, the visuals are, we should talk about the defining quality of them, which some people don't really like. You can turn it off, but there is stop motion in this game, and that's really hard to do. But this game reminded me of some of my favorite movies. Like, every year my wife and I watch Coraline together. I adore that movie. We also always watch Nightmare Before Christmas. So to see a game that's like kind of embodying that spirit, that art style, that motion picture style, if you will, that to me is awesome. That gets me excited. That's different. And so I was very happy with that while playing it. It was kind of more so not noticeable when I was running around the world space. It was more just when characters were talking. It just gave it a little bit of style, that was, again, different from what you typically consume. If you're looking for different, I think you're going to find a little bit of that here. They do one of my favorite tropes in gaming that I always forget about. When I see it, I go, like that. It's the kind of artistic presentation to lead into a chapter. I learned I loved this as a kid with Sly Cooper. You know, every time before you go on a big operation, you just get this great set of like slides and art that just depicts the villain for that chapter and what's going on with Sly and the gang, and then they jump into the gameplay. So here in this game, you get like this storybook presentation with a little bit of voiceover, and it just beautifully transitions right into the game itself. I just love that stuff. So I am a bit of a sucker, as you can tell, for a lot of the presentation boxes they are checking here, like lighting, the specific style of presentation when it comes to the chapters, the music especially. I'm big on music in games, so that also, you know, pardon the pun here, struck a chord with me, because you'll hear this like little acoustic strumming along the way as you're exploring the level. And I really like this because what happens is there's just brilliant audio design packed into this, where I'll be double jumping and you'll hear like a little choir each time you double jump, like a ha ha, pardon my singing, but nonetheless, that double jump sometimes fits really well into the other music playing in the background, and it feels like a musical experience in certain stretches. Like, it's very magical at times. That was really awesome to me, but really the music, just as you're going through parts of the level, you'll hear bits of the lyrics, and by the end, those lyrics come together to form a song where I was like scaling this massive tree, and it really just broke out into a crazy song that was about the story that I had just experienced over the last hour. So it really did leave an impression on me when it came to its presentation quality, but that's because it lifted up what I thought was an interesting premise. I don't know if the overall story will deliver. I don't know if I'll care about these characters, but I think this one chapter, this one frame, was a pretty good impression to make on someone like me, who's been very critical of video game writing, has been very critical of video game storytelling, particularly in that kind of like AAA side of the industry. So the story is set up as such. You're playing as Hazel. She's a weaver who's capable of repairing like broken spirits out there. And I saw a lot of heart in this story to really open things up, because in this chapter, you're learning about the pain that Benji, a guy who turned into that massive tree I was talking about earlier, has bottled up over the entirety of the American Deep South locale. And so it's a story that I learned was about bullying and standing up for what's right, and what happens when you put yourself first. So you'll learn how Benji was bullied to the point that Rhubarb, his brother, actually starts suffering because of him. And in turn, he says, hey, let's play a game of hide and seek, nails him into a tree and abandons him. And it got dark, and this is where the intangible factor comes in. Is while I was playing, I felt really sad for Benji. I'm like, that's so cruel, but they did it in a way that didn't feel pretentious. They did it in a way that didn't really feel, you know, like it just felt very well done with the music and the presentation and the bits of storytelling I got as I got into combat as well. It had a good flow to it. I went, yeah, this feels like, as I've said before, like a very old Xbox exclusive in the ways I really enjoy. I know for a lot of people, like the definitive Xbox exclusives are, of course, your Halo and your Gears, and that stuff is awesome. But I also think of like the OG Xbox era exclusives. I always point to Voodoo Vince when it comes to this game, because they both share that kind of love of the Deep South. And so those kind of weird off the board Xbox exclusives, I think South of Midnight is really truly finding a home there. Like I had kind of predicted when I first laid eyes on it, I was like, this is different from what Xbox does, but I think right now in a good way. But seldom was told to me about the main character herself. All I know is Hazel's kind of trying to learn more about her family history and trying to find her mom. And that really wasn't the compelling thread in at least this chapter. I didn't really care about any of that. The game didn't really give me a reason to, but the fact that I was able to care about these just like chapter-based characters, I don't know if they have long-term ramifications, if they appear later on or not, but the fact that I was able to care and feel something in that hour span, I thought was a good sign, right? And it was well acted too. So it all came together for a pretty good audio visual story experience that left a mark on me enough to be like, okay, While I did step out of the developer direct saying that South of Midnight was the Xbox exclusive I was least excited for, it just moved up in my personal excitement list of like, okay, I am always looking for a game that's going to move me, shape how I view the world, that sort of thing. So yeah, on the story front, feeling kind of positive about things. Optimistic would be the best word. When it comes to the gameplay though, it's pretty basic, and I like that it's there. It's serviceable, but I hope they do more interesting things with the gameplay as the experience itself evolves, because it feels like they have a really good touch on like the actual narrative and how that's going to evolve. Like the thematic touches of taking someone's pain and bottling it up says a lot to all of us, I think. So I hope there is an equal level of thought put into the gameplay, whether it be, you know, kind of, I think of like Persona and how the themes of that game bleed into its combat, where it's a game oftentimes about mental health. But again, it kind of feeds into that combat where even though it is a standard turn-based RPG, things like baton pass, working together, feed into the theme of something like teamwork and supporting one another and the importance of that and how it can lift us out of dark spots. Like it just works really well. Whereas South of Midnight doesn't feel as lock in step with its gameplay and narrative, where what'll happen is like you'll go to these sections where you'll see like a little healing pod and you'll know, okay, I'm about to fight a bunch of enemies. It is that very standard level design of like go wide, linear, fight, wide, linear, fight, and just keeps going open and close as you've experienced a million times in games before. In these fights, you have your light attacks, you can dodge. If you dodge at the right time, you can kind of leave an enemy stunned and knock them back a little bit. You can push or pull enemies with these sort of abilities. There's some cool interactions you can do, like there's this hive that you can pull an enemy out of and then throw them at another enemy. So there's little interactions like that, and there's one that I unlocked where you can weaken someone. The reason I'm a little bit reluctant on this game's gameplay experience is because I saw in the upgrade tree I had 3 of the 4 moves. So I'm hoping that there's a little bit more flexibility. I don't think it's about the amount of moves you get, but I hope that these can be used in interesting ways, because one thing I was kind of disappointed with in that little snapshot is, all right, can I use these abilities out of combat in interesting ways? There was like one time I used the pushback ability to knock up like a metal sheet and I got some upgrade points. I was like, all right, anything else? Like I thought like a higher level of environmental interaction would do a lot for me personally. So right now those abilities feel pretty confined to combat, and even there wasn't like a lot of experimentation. In that upgrade tree, you'll get moves that will let you like double jump and then slam the ground and do a little AoE, or push someone back for more damage, or when someone's weakened, you'll do more damage to them. Like very basic rudimentary level upgrade tree. So I think now you kind of see where I'm at, where I'm a little bit reserved on that side of the fence. Not bad, just serviceable. But I think when the story's offering something more than that, I was hoping maybe the gameplay could push a little bit further. So we'll see how that aspect develops. The 3D platforming also, I just am a little trepidatious about it. You know, it's simple double jump, glide, and wall running. It controls very well. Again, it's a lot about the experience. Like they'll time the music playing so you can kind of just get lost in that emotion of the experience, which I think will speak to some. But for me, I was hoping for more challenges. Like they do have this kind of Ori and the Blind Forest inspired escape segment, but it wasn't the butt clencher like that was, where I really felt I was putting my 3D platforming skills to the test, which was just a touch disappointing, at least again in these early frames. I got to remember this is chapter 3, so there is very much the possibility that they're just going easy on you to open things up. But speaking of opening up, you can explore this world, and as I mentioned, pretty linear. You'll be able to have certain pockets you'll go off the beaten path and maybe, you know, grab a readable and just learn some of the lore, or grab some more upgrade points, but it's not super frequent. This is a game, again, that is seemingly building up to be just like a one-time around the horn experience. In a lot of ways, and I don't know if Xbox fans will like me saying this, but in a lot of ways, kind of what I wanted out of Hellblade. Like, I want my experience, but I want my gameplay. So this is scratching the right itches. I just hope that gameplay evolves a little bit, because I could see this, if it delivers on its potential, being truly great. But I think if it's just got serviceable gameplay, then it's going to be a little bit of a tougher recommendation for some people who need that strong hook on that front. But anyway, just wanted to give you some brief thoughts on what's going on with South of Midnight after an hour of playing it. It did leave an impression on me, enough where I went from kind of being like, yeah, I'm prioritizing Clair Obscure, to like, okay, I do want to really fit you in and see what's going on there. So that did move the needle in a positive direction. And that's nice because otherwise, what else did I preview this year? I played Assassin's Creed Shadows and that was awful. So yeah, like I'm happy to walk out of a preview being like, all right, nice. That was pretty solid. So let me know your thoughts on South of Midnight. What were the specs down below? Curious to get your thoughts. Other than that, thank you for watching. Take great care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.